All right, let's talk about something that truly affects every single one of us, but is still so often wrapped up in mystery: mental health. Today, we're going to cut through all that noise to really understand what it is, what it isn't, and most importantly, what the real, hopeful path to recovery looks like. So let's dive in. And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, right? This is the heart of the issue. So many people experience these challenges, but the misunderstanding and the silence around it all create this huge barrier. And it's that barrier that we're going to start taking down today. To do that, we have to start at square one. It might seem like a simple question, but really getting this definition right, well, it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. Okay, so first things first. Before we can even get to the solutions, we have to clear the air. We're going to bust some of the biggest myths and just make sure we're all on the same page. So let's start with mental health. It's not just about not being sick. A much better way to think about it is as a positive state. It's about being mentally fit. It's having the tools to handle the normal stresses of life, to be productive, and feel connected to others. Okay, so if that's mental health, then a mental disorder is a real health condition that throws a wrench into all of that. And the key words here are distress and difficulty in daily life. We are not talking about just having a bad day or a rough week. This is a persistent condition that really gets in the way of a person's ability to live their life. And this right here, this is probably the single biggest, most damaging myth we need to get past. This idea that it's a character flaw or that you could just will yourself to get better. That is just plain wrong. The fact is, these are treatable health conditions, no different than diabetes or heart disease. And those myths aren't harmless. They have very real, very serious consequences. When we treat these conditions like a weakness, it creates this cloud of stigma. And that stigma is the very thing that stops so many people from taking that brave first step and asking for help. So, if it's not a weakness, where does it come from? That's the logical next question, right? Well, the answer is kind of a complex puzzle, but understanding the pieces is how we start to make sense of it all. See, there's rarely one single cause. It's almost never that simple. A better way to think about it is like a recipe with three main groups of ingredients. You've got biological factors, like your genetics and brain chemistry. Then you've got psychological factors, stress, trauma, your thought patterns. And finally, social factors, like your family life and environment. It's the unique mix of all these things that can lead to a condition. All right, so we've kind of covered the what and the why. Now let's get a little more concrete and look at how these things can actually show up as some of the most common conditions people face. Now, this isn't a complete list, of course, but it covers the big categories. And just to give you some perspective, anxiety and depressive disorders are by far the most common. We're talking about nearly 300 million people worldwide for each. This is not a niche issue, it's a global health reality. Let's just zoom in on depression for a second. It is so much more than just feeling sad. Imagine losing all interest in the things you used to love, feeling this bone-deep exhaustion that you just can't sleep off. It's this heavy, persistent weight of hopelessness that just colors your entire world. Which, of course, after hearing all that complexity and all that pain, leads us to the most important question of all. Is there hope? Is recovery actually possible? And the answer, I am so happy to say, is a clear, loud, resounding yes. Absolutely. With the right support and the right treatment, the vast majority of people can and do get better. Recovery shouldn't be seen as a long shot. It should be the expectation. And that brings us to our final and honestly most hopeful section. What does that path to recovery actually look like? What are the tools and the support systems that really help people heal? Treatment is about so much more than just making symptoms go away. The real goal is to get your life back, to be able to work, to connect with the people you love, and to just improve your overall quality of life. So, how do we get there? Well, there's rarely a single magic bullet. The most effective treatment is usually a combination of things. You have psychological support, like therapy to learn coping skills. You have medical support, which might include medication to address the biology. And then you have social support from family, friends, community. And that piece is just absolutely critical. It's the foundation for everything else. And this is where it all comes full circle, back to us. Treatment is vital, but so is prevention. And the very first step in preventing these issues from getting worse is simply awareness.
It's having conversations just like this one, understanding the facts, and tearing down that stigma. That's how we create a world where it's okay for people to get help early.
So, if you take just one thing away from our time together, please let it be this. We have to completely flip the script on how we think about this. Reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It is the exact opposite. It is an act of incredible courage. It's a sign of profound strength. And that is a truth worth holding on to.